Hi guys, good to be here again talking to you. I'm in my pajamas today. I've had a week, let me tell you. This week I had a bit of a medical emergency. You know, I have lung issues, obviously the pulmonary hypertension, but also the cancer, the Hodgkin's lymphoma was in my lungs. So I always have to watch out for my lungs. I'm not allowed to do cardio, and you know, I always have to pay attention. I always have that tight feeling and everything, but you know, I've been pushing myself a lot lately, and you know, not sleeping well, and you know, not doing things I'm supposed to do, like rest and pace myself, because I think I mentioned I'm trying to build this company and it's a lot of work, but I have to really start paying attention to my energy and eating properly and all that stuff. But so I actually had chest pain. At first, like 2 weeks ago, I was feeling so drained. I couldn't get out of bed. I just kind of laid around. I did a little bit of work, but I just had to slow down, and I just thought it's because I was, you know, doing so much that it was catching up with me just in terms of my energy. But then my chest started to hurt, and it started to hurt after I tried to do an exercise, and I didn't even get through the whole thing. I did like this beach body thing, and it was like the beginner's one, you know, so it's supposed to be easy on you. And I did it twice, and I only got through the warm-up part, and I didn't get through the whole warm-up part. The first time I did it, I think I did the first 5 minutes, and my heart was beating so much, and it was like so hard to breathe. I just sat down and I said, okay, I'll come back another time and try again and see if I can get further. So I pushed myself a little bit, and I went a little bit further. You know, it starts off with you doing this thing where you stretch out your chest. That's number one. But then this second time, I got to the point where they were doing like sort of modified push-up. I did like 1.5, maybe 3, something like that. But right before that, there was like a little bit of jogging in place. You know, you bring your knees up, and it was like a minute. And you know, I decided to stop because you know I couldn't, you know, keep my breath, and it was just a lot harder, obviously. But so then like the next day, my chest started hurting really bad. I had like very sharp pain right up here in my chest, and I thought it was like before where I did something I shouldn't have done, and I get inflammation and I get that pain in my chest. So I called the doctor. They told me to go to the ER. The thing is, first of all, I hate hospitals. We all hate hospitals, right? But you know, I didn't go immediately. I didn't go immediately because I had stuff to do. Okay, I had a boat ride in New York, and I went, and I even missed the boat. They left me, even though I called to tell them my train was late. They still left me, even though they said, oh yeah, we'll wait for you. I get there 10 minutes after they were supposed to leave, and they were gone. So that was all for nothing, and it was a cold, rainy day last week. And so I came home, and I just kind of chilled out. And then the next day, I did a little bit of work, but it was really hard to just even sit up. I was so drained. And so I said, okay, let me go to the ER. So I went to the ER late afternoon, thinking that they would just give me some prednisone because I thought it was the same issue. I realized a little later that there were some things about it that were different this time. Because before, when I would do that, I would feel like a lot of the similar symptoms I used to have. This time it was primarily the chest, but when I went to the ER, it was really what told me to like go now was I was getting a fever. So I had fever and cold flashes or whatever. So I went to the ER, and they did the blood work and everything, and I was gonna leave, but the doctor said, you know, let's just double check and make sure it's not a blood clot, because blood clots are a risk for people who have had cancer. So I said, okay, we did the CAT scan and it showed like some fuzzy thing at the bottom, and it was, you know, they said it was, they think it's pneumonia. So I was kept there overnight. I was there for a day and a half. So I got the IV. Oh my gosh, it's so painful. I have scar tissue on my good vein. So it can't do, I can get blood just to take blood, you know, that every 3 months or whatever, but I can't get an IV because it's too much scar tissue. It doesn't go, so they have to put it in my hand, and you know, this thing doesn't, like, it takes forever for the glue to come out. My notes. So it's still there, and it's just gross, but the IV was in my hand, and I hate that thin skin, and they put it right in the wrist, and you have to move your wrist. So by the second dose of antibiotics they were trying to give me through IV, I said I can't do it because it was so painful. It burned and it started to swell up and everything. So, but at that point I was just getting ready to leave anyway. They were going to discharge me, and so we just finished with like pills, and so I have some medications I'm still taking. Still have to take the antibiotics for another 4 or 5 days. But I feel so much better. I couldn't talk. Like if I talked, I would have to cough it out, you know, because my lungs just was so messed up. That's always scary, getting illnesses that are familiar from like the past, you know, and when Scleroderma was really bad and the cancer and all that. I was like, oh please God, it just, you get flashbacks, and I was like, oh no, I can't go through this again. But luckily, you know, the medications are working and I'll be fine. On the drive back, this is what I want to talk to you about. I was listening to family radio, and there was an interview with a lady from Medicare, from, you know, Social Security Administration, and she works on Medicare. And apparently we are going to be getting people who are on Medicare, like if you're on disability, then you're probably on Medicare too for health coverage. And they're going to be issuing new cards. And if you are on Medicare, then you know your ID has your Social Security number on it. And so it's not safe. So what they're doing is they're issuing new cards with random numbers on it. So every person will have a unique number that identifies them, but it won't be your Social Security number. It's just a randomly generated number that they're going to produce. And this is to try to avoid fraud, because there's a lot of fraud in Medicare. You know, when people think Medicare, they think old people on retirement, and if you're getting disability, you're basically tapping into Social Security, so you kind of lumped in with the elderly and retired people. But yeah, so the elderly are targets for fraud. And so even if you're not old, you're on Medicare, you're probably still a target just like they are. And so yeah, it's just to make it a better system. And you know, fraud is very expensive. We all end up paying for it, and that makes, you know, insurance go up and all that. So they're trying to do something new to curtail fraud. And I just wanted to tell you what I heard on the radio. So the lady speaking, her name was what's her name? Kate Corzaborn or something. I think Kate Corzaborn. That's what it sounded like, with the Social Security Administration. And in case you want to know her number at the end, if you want to call them for a question or something, the number is 800 HHS TIPS, which is 800-447-8477. And so what one thing that they recommend to do to prepare for, you know, this new card is to make sure that the Social Security Administration has your correct address. So if you've moved since you started, then you need to make sure that they have your correct address so that you get the card and somebody else doesn't get your card. And there's two ways to do that. first I want to recommend, the first way I'm going to tell you, if you are even a little bit computer savvy and you know how to go on the internet and sign up for stuff, like if you have an Amazon account and all that, you know how to sign up for something, you should definitely get an online account with Social Security. And you go to, wow, I have a lot of notes here. Let me find it. You go to mymedicare.gov and you set up an account with them. And once you do that, you can check your address, make sure your address is correct, and you can also see everything about your account, especially if you are looking out for fraud, if you've ever been an identity theft victim or something like that. But everything you want to see about your account, you'll find there. Like when you go to the doctor, and if you want to see all the billing that your doctor put in, you can see it there and everything. So that's one way to make sure that your address is correct. But the other way is that you can just call them, and the number is 1-800-MEDICARE. That's 1-800-633-4227, and you can call them and just ask them to tell you what address they have and make sure that they have your correct address. What the card is going to look like is going to look very similar to the first one, the original, but just where it has like your Social Security number used to be, that's where you'll see another number. And so just to let you know, if you see, oh my gosh, where is this coming from? It must be, some kind of trick. It's not a trick. It's really the Social Security. And if you get something in the mail that you're not sure if it's official, you can always just call them at that 1-800-MEDICARE number and find out. So this all started already. They're going to be issuing these cards over the next year. So you're gonna, it's just random. So she was saying, like, if your neighbor gets one and you didn't, don't worry about it, because they're rolling it out over the next year. And some people, your neighbor could get it before you do. It doesn't really mean anything. So the other thing is, you want to make sure that you treat this number just like a Social Security number or a credit card number. Even though it's not your social, it's still something that identifies you personally. And a person can still, do fraudulent things with your card. It's just that they can't affect your entire life like they could with your Social Security number. It would just affect your Medicare. So you want to protect it. And then if you have, I guess this is just for older people, someone who has a Medicare Advantage or Part D, she said to keep this new card with those things. I don't know about that stuff, but she just said to keep it together because they're different numbers or something. And then the other thing is, doctors are aware that this is going to be happening, so your doctor may ask you for the number, and if you don't have it, the doctor can call and find out what that number is. So you don't have to worry, but yeah, obviously still keep it with you. There are other reasons to have it with you anyway, like if you're getting a special fare on a train or something like that, you want to have it on you. It's still going to be paper, and you can actually, the other reason to get that online account is because you can actually just print it out yourself, If you need another copy, or God forbid you lose it or something, you can just go ahead and print another copy for yourself. And as soon as you get the new card, you can throw out the old one. And so of course she was saying, you make sure that you only give the number to people who need it, your pharmacists, any kind of service providers who need the number, your other insurance company, your doctor, of course. But yeah, just make sure you're really careful with that. So one last thing about it, if you have questions and complaints, like if you think you're a victim of fraud, or you just have general questions, of course you can call that 1-800-MEDICARE number. But also for fraud, there's an inspector general who handles that, and you can find out about that at oig.hhs.gov. So 3 ways you can prevent fraud and being taken advantage of and all that. Somebody is not on the up and up, they're not from Medicare if they ask you for your number, if they call you without an invitation to call you or some kind of pre-planned arrangement to call you, or if they're trying to sell you something, or like barter or something like that. Medicare doesn't sell anything, and they don't call you randomly. Like you have to basically ask them to call you, or they set something up with you. Usually they send things in the mail, you know, so they're not gonna call with anything. So that's like very blatant ways to know that it's not legitimate. So these are just all things we have to think about, you know. Yeah, so just protect yourself and help keep the system safe and keep the costs down, because we all pay for it. So that's everything I wanted to tell you today. I hope that you enjoy my videos. I hope they're informative. I hope they help you. Remember, stay strong, stay positive, and be encouraged. Talk to you later.